Colonel Potter, sir. My last wish is to be buried in my mother's wedding gown.
I've seen these Dodgers for 40 years. All the tricks. Dismissed.
Can you even picture American TV without MASH? It's almost impossible. The show didn't just entertain. It completely changed what a sitcom could be. When it launched in 1972, with the Vietnam War still casting a long shadow, MASH chose to set its story during the Korean War. It mixed sharp comedy with deep heartbreak, showing how absurd war could be while highlighting the strength of the human spirit. The quirky crew at the 4077 quickly won over fans. But behind the camera, things were far from simple. The show kept shifting as it started tackling heavier topics and adding more complex character arcs. That creative push stirred up some tension. So much so that several major cast members walked away. But why did they leave? Was it about money, creative fights, or something deeper? The truth is more surprising than you'd think. Let's rewind and see how this groundbreaking series was born. It all started with a book. Back in 1968, a Korean War surgeon named Richard Hornberger, writing under the name Richard Hooker, published MASH, a novel about 3 Army doctors. His book blended dark humor with raw honesty, pulling from his real-life experiences in a mobile Army surgical hospital. The mix of sarcasm, sorrow, and humanity made the book a huge success and caught Hollywood's eye fast. Just 2 years later, director Robert Altman brought it to life on the big screen. The film MASH became a hit, a dark comedy that walked the line between laughter and grief. Donald Sutherland starred as Hawkeye and Elliot Gould played Trapper John, capturing how bizarre and painful war could be. As the Vietnam War raged on, audiences connected deeply with the film. It didn't just earn rave reviews. It took home the Palme d'Or and won an Oscar for Best Screenplay. But the true cultural explosion came in 1972. That's when CBS took a bold step and adapted MASH into a weekly television series. Developed by Larry Gelbart and Gene Reynolds, the show kept the war setting in sharp humor, but leaned harder into deep character stories and emotional moments. Alan Alda stepped into the role of Hawkeye Pierce and quickly became the soul of the show. At first, things were rough. Season 1's ratings were so low, CBS nearly pulled the plug. But when they moved it to Saturday nights, everything changed. The audience grew, and so did the show's influence. MASH broke all kinds of rules. It showed real war footage, used helicopters instead of laugh tracks, and introduced realism that was rare in comedy. Alan Alda didn't just act. He became a major creative force, writing, directing, and shaping the series into something far more emotional. But as the show evolved, not everyone was on board. Some actors felt their roles were being reduced. Others wanted to try something new or were dealing with personal struggles. Over 11 seasons, cast members came and went, but the mission stayed strong: to reveal the emotional cost of war through kindness, wit, and unshakable human connection. And now, let's talk about the first major shock to cast. An exit so unexpected. The writers made a bold, heartbreaking choice, and fans never forgot it. McLean Stevenson. Ask any longtime fan of MASH what moment shook them most, and many will point to the jaw-dropping final scene of Season 3's finale. Abyssinia, Henry. Just one quiet line from radar sent shockwaves through living rooms across America. Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake's plane was shot down over the Sea of Japan. There were no survivors. That single moment rewrote TV history. It wasn't just unexpected, it was devastating. And it marked the sudden, permanent departure of McLean Stevenson, who played Colonel Henry Blake. McLean had been there since the beginning. His character, kind, bumbling, and always well-meaning, brought heart to the chaos. Where Hawkeye and Trapper delivered fast wit, Blake brought a touch of confused warmth that grounded the madness. He was a lovable figure, and fans adored him. He even won a Golden Globe for his work. But behind the scenes, it wasn't all laughter. McLean started feeling sidelined. The show, which began as a team ensemble, had started revolving more and more around Alan Alda's Hawkeye. And Alda's growing role as a writer and director gave his character more emotional depth and screen time. Meanwhile, McLean felt pushed to the background. He even told People magazine in 1975, "I want to be number one. I want to be the guy carrying the show." That line might sound ego-driven, but it really wasn't about pride. It was about ambition. McLean wanted to grow, to lead, to shine in a role that gave him more space. He dreamed of being the lead, not a side character stuck in someone else's story. He knew how powerful TV could be, and he didn't want to be boxed into the same role forever. So, at the end of season 3, he made the tough call. He told the producers he was leaving. And that's when the creators made a shocking decision. Most sitcoms would have sent Henry Blake off with a cheerful goodbye, maybe a transfer or retirement. But MASH wasn't typical comedy. Larry Gelbart and Gene Reynolds wanted to remind viewers that MASH was still a war story. And in war, people don't always make a home. The result? The unforgettable episode, Abyssinia, Henry. At first, everything feels warm and hopeful. Henry gets his orders to go home. There are celebrations, heartfelt hugs, and joyful goodbyes. For nearly the entire episode, it feels like a happy ending. Then the storm hits. In the final scene, Radar walks into the operating room. He's holding his hat, his face somber. The other doctors are busy saving a patient when he breaks the news. Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake's plane was shot down over the Sea of Japan. There were no survivors. Silence. No music. No laugh track, just stunned faces and the steady beep of medical equipment. It was one of the most shocking moments in TV history. A main character gone in an instant, and what made it hit even harder, most of the cast didn't know it was coming. Only Gary Berghoff, who played Radar, had been told the ending so he could prepare. The rest of the actors were reacting in real time, and that raw emotion came to the screen like a punch to the gut. The response was immediate and explosive. CBS was flooded with letters after that shocking episode. Some viewers praised the show for being brave. Others were furious. How could they kill off such a beloved character like Henry Blake? A few even accused the producers of going too far. But show runner Larry Gelbart stood firm. He said, "We wanted to say that not everybody gets to go home." And boy, did they ever. But what happened to McLean Stevenson after he left MASH? Well, at first, it looked like he hit the jackpot. He signed a big deal with NBC and launched the McLean Stevenson Show, a family sitcom built around his easy charm. It seemed like he was finally stepping into the spotlight on his own terms. But it didn't last. The show was canceled after just one season. Then came Hello, Larry. Another big swing that flopped even harder. Critics tore it apart. Audiences tuned out, and before long, McLean became the punchline of his own story. Years later, in a 1983 interview, he admitted, "I took myself out of the game." It wasn't just about the failed shows. It was realizing that MASH was lightning in a bottle. The cast, the writing, the magic, he left it all behind. Some cast members, like Alan Alda and Loretta Swit, were sad to see him go. Others wondered, had he walked away from something truly special too soon? McLean kept working in TV here and there, but nothing ever came close to the role of Henry Blake. That was the one that stuck in people's hearts. When he passed away in 1996, at just 68 years old, tributes came pouring in. Alda called him a wonderful actor and a good man. Gary Berghoff said he was a light-hearted spirit who brought joy to everyone. Say what you want about McLean's choice to leave, but in a strange way, that tragic exit gave the show its heart, and the role he tried to leave behind, it became the most unforgettable of his career. But if you thought McLean's exit was tough, Wayne Rogers' departure was on a whole different level. Quiet, messy, and full of behind-the-scenes drama. See, while McLean got a proper send-off and a TV moment that shook the country, Wayne Rogers just vanished. One episode, he was there. The next, gone. No goodbye. No explanation. No closure. So what really happened? To understand, we have to go back to the beginning. Wayne played Trapper John McIntyre, the other half of the comedic duo that carried the early days of MASH. He and Alda's Hawkeye Pierce were the life of the camp, full of jokes, pranks, and heart. They were the wartime odd couple, with scalpels. But off camera, things weren't so funny. Wayne originally signed on believing MASH would be an ensemble show, where everyone shared the spotlight. But as time went on, the spotlight shifted to Alda. Alan Alda didn't just act. He wrote, he directed, and his character, Hawkeye, became the soul of the show. More screen time, more serious scenes, more depth. At first, Wayne didn't mind. He liked Alda, but over time it became clear Trapper John was stuck. He didn't grow. He didn't evolve. Wayne once said, Trapper didn't have much to do. He was a guy who nodded at everything Alan said. And that didn't sit right with him. So, quietly, without a fight or a farewell tour, Wayne decided not to come back after season 3. He didn't even sign a formal contract. He had been working on a handshake deal the whole time. When producers tried to sue him, they had no legal ground. He never broke a contract. Because there wasn't one, writers were left scrambling. They explained in season 4 that Trapper was discharged while Hawkeye was away. No party, no last scene, just gone. Fans were crushed. First Henry, now Trapper? People were stunned and a little angry. In his place came B.J. Honeycutt, played by Mike Farrell, a softer, deeper character, less wild, more grounded. And strangely enough, the show shifted. Some say it even got better, more serious, more emotional. Others missed the old buddy comedy vibe. As for Wayne, he didn't just fade away. He pivoted hard. He became a successful investor and financial commentator. With a history degree from Princeton, Wayne made millions on Wall Street. By the 1990s, he was a regular panelist on Fox Newscasting in talking economics instead of acting. But he never turned his back on MASH. He made a few jokes about it later, even returned for some TV work. And there was no bad blood. Aldo once said, Wayne is one of the smartest people I've ever worked with. I miss him a lot when he left. When Wayne died in 2015 at the age of 82, Alda tweeted, he was smart, funny, curious, and dedicated. We made a pact to give each other a hard time for the rest of our lives. And I'm sorry we won't have the chance. The painful exit of Radar O'Reilly. We talk about actors who left MASH to chase other dreams. But Gary Berghoff? He left because the show was breaking him, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. It's almost ironic. Gary played Radar O'Reilly, the heart and soul of the 4077th. He was the innocent one, the sweet kid with the teddy bear, the guy who could hear choppers before anyone else. While others cracked jokes or broke rules, Radar held the whole unit together. He was the glue. But behind that lovable smile and quiet voice, Gary Berghoff was falling apart. Most people don't know this. Gary was the only actor to carry his role over from the original 1970 MASH film. But his Radar was different. In the movie, Radar was sneaky, even sleazy. On TV, Gary transformed him into a symbol of innocence in a world of war. It was beautiful, it was unforgettable, and it was slowly destroying him. By season 7, Gary was suffering badly. The production was grueling. He battled anxiety and depression quietly, because back then, no one talked about mental health. And at home, his personal life was slipping through his fingers. He was missing out on his young daughter's childhood. And he later said it was a mistake I never stopped regretting. Co-star Mike Farrell revealed years later, Gary had emotional problems. He always felt he wasn't getting the appreciation he deserved. But we all respected him. He just didn't see it. And behind the scenes, things were messy. Gary wanted less screen time, more flexibility, better pay. He was burning out fast. The producers tried to work with him. They gave him time off. They reduced his appearances. But none of it was enough. He was done. So in season 8, Gary made the heartbreaking decision to walk away. But unlike Wayne Rogers, the show gave Radar a proper goodbye. And what a goodbye it was. The 2-part episode Goodbye. Radar is still one of the most emotional moments in TV history. Radar returns from leave to find the camp falling apart. He tries to fix it, like always, but something's different. Radar has changed. In the end, he realizes he's needed more at home. His mother, his community, his future. And then silence. Radar walks away, silhouetted against the Korean sky. He leaves behind his teddy bear. And just like that, he's gone. That scene shattered fans. because when Radar left, it felt like our innocence was leaving too. After MASH, Gary tried one more time. He starred in a spinoff called Walter, where Radar becomes a rookie cop, but it didn't last. Hollywood had changed, and so had Gary. He disappeared from the spotlight. Instead, he found peace in nature. He painted. He worked on wildlife conservation. He even became an inventor. Seriously, he held patents, including one for fishing gear. Years later, he summed it all up in one honest sentence. I left for two reasons, my family and burnout. I wanted to pick up the pieces of my life. And honestly, who could blame him? Because sometimes walking away takes more courage than staying. Today, Gary lives a quiet, almost secret life. No spotlight, no interviews, just peace. But once in a while, fans spot him at a convention or stumble across a rare quote. And in that moment, they remember the gentle kid with the big ears, the one who could hear choppers before anyone else. But now, let's talk about the man who played one of the most hated characters in early TV history. Larry Linville, Frank Burns. The name alone brings back a flood of eye rolls and groans. He was strict, self-important, a total rule worshiper. He sucked up to superiors, snuck around with Major Houlihan, and constantly got humiliated by Hawkeye and Trapper. And we loved every second of it. Larry Linville didn't just play Frank Burns. He became the guy we all loved to hate. But as MASH matured, something strange happened. Frank's one-dimensional cruelty started to feel off. Other characters grew. They deepened. But Frank, he stayed stuck. Petty, prejudiced, predictable. Larry saw the writing on the wall. And in a move that shocked fans, he walked away after season 5. He wasn't fired. He wasn't pushed. He simply said, I've taken the character as far as I could. And just like that, Frank Burns was gone. The ripple effect? Massive. With Frank out, MASH transformed. No more cartoon villains. No more lazy slapstick. Instead, the show leaned into real moral dilemmas, real war stories. Larry's exit wasn't just a cast change. It was a creative turning point. And though his departure was never mentioned on screen, just a casual promotion off in the distance, fans felt the loss. Deeply, Larry went on to do guest spots on TV and movies, but nothing ever matched the firestorm that was Frank Burns. And replacing him? That was no easy task. David Ogden Stiers. His character? The unforgettable Charles Emerson Winchester III. Where Frank was loud and ridiculous, Winchester was cold, brilliant, and painfully proud. He wasn't a villain. He was a challenge. To Hawkeye, to BJ, to everyone. At first, viewers hated him. Too arrogant, too elitist, too smug. But slowly his mask cracked. Underneath the opera and wine talk was a deeply guarded man, one haunted by the horrors of war, one who didn't laugh through the pain, but endured it. And David Ogden Stiers played that pain to perfection. Unlike Larry, David stayed until the end. And in the final episode, he delivers one of the most haunting scenes in TV history, teaching Chinese POWs to play Mozart. No rage, no tears, just quiet, beautiful heartbreak. He turned down the After MASH spinoff, saying simply, Winchester had said what he needed to say. And years later, in 2009, he made a different kind of statement. He came out as gay, proud, unapologetic, but honest about why he'd waited. For years, he stayed silent out of fear. Fear that being out would destroy his voice acting work with Disney or cost him roles. He never sought headlines. But when he finally spoke his truth, he did it with class. David died in 2018 from bladder cancer. He was 75, but his legacy, it's unshakable, both as a performer and as a man who lived and ended on his own terms. And we can't talk about MASH without honoring the women, because behind every wisecrack and surgical miracle, there were nurses, especially one unforgettable woman, Major Margaret Hot Lips Houlihan. At first, she was treated like a joke. The nickname said it all, Hot Lips. Written as the uptight, rule-loving buzzkill, the woman men laughed at behind her back. But Loretta Swit had other plans. She fought to reshape Margaret, to make her strong, smart, real. By the time the series ended, Margaret had transformed. No longer a punchline, she was a powerhouse, a decorated officer, a fearless nurse, a woman who questioned the war, yet showed up for every patient. Loretta stayed all 11 seasons, one of only 4 actors to appear in both the pilot and the finale. She once said, "I wanted her to be a woman of substance." And thanks to her, Margaret became one of the most important women in TV history. MASH wasn't just a show. It was a war story with heart. And every actor, whether they stayed, left, or faded from fame, left a mark that still lingers today. Whose story moved you the most? Tell us in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because we got even more unforgettable stories coming your way.